Coming to you from beautiful downtown Spokane, where you can enjoy all 4 seasons in just one day. Because when we do nature, we go hardcore. It's the QueerCentric with your host, Queerly Jonny.
Welcome, everyone, to another fun rendition of our little podcast here in the studio, the QueerCentric. So that must mean it's, as every week, it's Tuesday, and we have a great discussion and a great guest on the books. But before we get to that, I do want to do the fun little introduction that we do. I want to say, remember last week we interviewed the amazing and talented Jason T. Gaffney and David Allen Singletary of the new Deku.com series Marriage of Inconvenience. Remember, that is out now. So definitely go and support them. It's a cute show. I binged the whole thing. And like I say all the time, we as queer artists should support our fellow indie queer artists because that's how we change the landscape of entertainment to include us. So we're very excited for them. We wish them lots of congratulations on the launch date. So remember to check out Marriage of Inconvenience on Deku.com. Also, if you don't have Deku.com, it's not that expensive, so it would be worth throwing into everything else that we all the other channels we buy these days. It's kind of like I sort of miss cable. I'm not going to, because I had one bill. Now I have like too many bills and I don't know where my money's going. So listen, it gets bad. It gets bad out here. Also, we want to mention that STCU Best of Broadway has announced their new season. So it came out yesterday. So be sure to go to BroadwaySpokane.com to check out what you can see. You know, we love going to all the shows, talking to all the great actors. Some highlights I want to say is I missed Mean Girls, the musical this year, and I get a second chance. So Mean Girls is coming back, so look for that. Also, I don't think Spokane has ever had Les Mis. And Les Mis is going to be here. I saw it when I was a baby gay in Seattle, and it was absolutely, it's an amazing show. I liked it better than the movie. Sorry about it. I'm just going to say that. I liked it better than the movie. Absolutely amazing. So you can do that. And let's see what else you might love to see. 6 is going to be here in Spokane. We've never had this musical. Good old Henry VIII and all the bad things he did to his wives. That's coming here. So you're going to be able to do that too. If you want your tickets, just go to BroadwaySpokane.com and you can buy season tickets now. And we love them over at West Coast Entertainment because they are nothing but supportive of us. And so support those who support you. That's all I'm saying. Now, I want to get into what I love about our next guest is multifaceted, absolutely brilliant voice, has so many amazing singles over the years, and about to release a brand new album. And it talks about something, I mean, this is very autobiographical. Before we go on, he is a former American Idol, and we're going to talk to him about how that's got to get old after a while, hearing that in all of your interviews. But we're going to welcome to the mics David Hernandez. David, welcome.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're a busy guy.
I'm a busy bee. Buzz.
You are, and now you're on the.
I try to keep myself busy.
I mean, and you do really well. And now you're on the. Are you still on the opposite coast of California?
Yeah, I'm currently in East Hampton, New York, but I was in the city earlier. But I'll be here and I'll be in New York until April 30th.
See, that's amazing. I want to say now, there's so many things to talk about with what you have going on recently and your life. So I kind of, before we get to the big release of your album, which I'm very interested in talking about, I want to start with how's it going right now? Like, did you finish your run? You have been a second time being part of Naked Boys Singing. This one's off Broadway in New York. Is that run finished?
No, so we actually run. They're running indefinitely, but my contract is really only until the 29th of April.
Nice.
So I help them sort of open it, and I'm running with them till the end of April, and then I'm back on to Los Angeles.
That's so crazy. Because you were also, did you do it in Vegas before?
Yeah, we did it in Vegas for 6 months, September 2021 through March 2022, and then there was like a whole year, you know, that I went back to LA, and then I saw that Tom, the producer, Deanne Gora, was opening on Broadway. Like, there was this big Playbill announcement, Broadway World announcement, and I texted him and I was like, how dare you not ask me to be in this goddamn production? You know, because it's always been my dream to be on Broadway or off Broadway,
For
but just
real.
to be in New York and be back in theater, and like it's like the heartbeat of theater in New York City. You know what I mean? So it
Very
was
much.
just I sought after being cast. I told him, I said, I don't care what the pay is, you need to cast me. And then a week later, he bought my flight, and I was on a plane to the Big Apple. Yeah.
Nice. What I love, so we talk a lot about on our show body positivity and all of these things. What I love about the new iteration of Naked Boy Singing is it also has that element involved, especially this off Broadway of body positivity. It's not just one body we're celebrating; it's all bodies we're celebrating. Whether work at the gym or whatever it is. What's that been like? How has the reception for that been?
It's been incredible. Dom Giovanni he's my absolute favorite. He's just such a sweetheart, and he's such a performer. He's a professional. You know, he's been doing theater for a long time. And it's just great having people that come to the show being able to relate to different people on stage. You know what I mean? Like I'm a Latino. There's a variety of different casts. And like, I think it's just so important to highlight that there are different shapes and sizes,
right,
and that you don't have to fit this mold, you know what I mean, of whatever, like the ripped guy on stage. And and I just think it's such a great I don't know, it's a great conversational piece. It definitely starts a conversation, and
for sure.
Hasn't this happened sooner, and why isn't it happening all the time, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think that's amazing. I mean, I have just as much respect because since I've followed you for years on Instagram and all that, and you work your ass off to stay in shape and be like above. You really stay on top of it and go above and beyond. And sometimes I'll watch you'll do these videos of your workouts, and I'm like, good for you. No, I will not do that. That I am not committed.
That was me earlier today in the city. I had one of my castmates is also a personal trainer, and I hired him, Dylan. I hired him to train me. He's been fantastic because I have issues with like mobility, and I know people don't believe this, but like I don't work out now as much for the aesthetic as I do for like the mental health of it all. And also I'm getting older, and I just want to feel my best. But some days are a struggle, man. And like, it's just, those are the days that I think are the most important to be there, or the days that you're like, I do not want to do this shit right now, but I'm going to show up with an attitude, but I'm still going to show up.
Exactly. Well, at the same time, I think we can't belittle this. I mean, I think we fall into the cliche a lot of judging books by their cover and acting like, oh, this must be easy for you. And it's, it doesn't matter where we are, no matter where we are on a physical level, where we are on a mental level, it takes work, period. And it does help your mental health to make yourself go do that. But I love that we're at a point where we're saying, we're going to take this. I mean, I remember, I'm a man of a certain age. I remember 20 years ago when Naked Boy Singing first came out, and I was this young queer guy. And I remember watching the video because listen, people, it takes everything that a good stereotypical gay boy like me loved, which was Broadway and great songs from Broadway, and then the guys are naked. I'm like, how could you not want this? But I remember finding it fascinating then, and then to see that they continue, because I know the producers have their own personal story as well, so to see that it is evolving and involving everybody, I just can't say enough. I wish I was in New York and everybody could go, because I know they do it every week. It's just something to celebrate, and we need to celebrate that. So, I mean, props to you for doing a very vulnerable show like that.
I mean, and listen, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, I am a man of a certain age as well. And I honestly feel more in my skin now than I did when I was in my 20s, because I've been able to have these experiences, and also I'm not comparing myself to other people and their bodies. This is who I am. This is, we get one trip,
right?
One life to live, and it goes by quicker than you think. So I just try to always keep that in perspective. And this show, back in Vegas when I started doing the show, like, it gave me such a confidence being butt naked, because you can't hide behind anything. Nothing. Your angles are they see every angle, what I mean? So like, you're not always sucking in, or like,
right,
getting your like, whatever. The
flex your abs every second the camera goes off.
Listen, I got over that after like the first week in Vegas. I'm like, I am not flexing for an hour. I'm sorry.
Right?
But like, what you see is what you get. And what's great about the show is that you sort of forget 5 minutes in that we're naked. You just sort of start to focus on how fucking funny it is.
Yeah.
And we're dancing with flaccid penises
Right.
flopping around. It's hilarious. Like
Yeah.
it's a reason why it's been around for 20 plus years.
For real. I always tell people that it's, when you get out of the shower and you see yourself in the mirror, we're just this is what we are. And you just get to see these guys just vulnerably sharing everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is all, I do think about what I do. I have to tell my team that. There is a rhyme to my reason, a reason to my rhyme. The vulnerability seems to be this thread, I think, that I feel is going through your life. And so before we get into this very vulnerable album that you're about to release, I want to talk about, and I said it in the beginning, sometimes interviewers want to define us by one moment. And I have no doubt you have been asked about American Idol season 7 because it was the beginning, I think, of a lot more people being aware. However, it does not define a person. But what I find fascinating about that time is you talked a lot about how you got there. Your beginning being brought up was not the easiest. These are the things that you take into your adulthood. These are the things that even if someone looks aesthetically a specific way, they're out there busting their ass to do their art. The fact is, we all bring our suitcases with us. And that's what American Idol, because you also went through shit during American Idol. Absolute bullshit. Yeah. Uh-huh. So I want to start with, you've had quotes talking about how you brought those childhood things, what happened to you that affected you on American Idol. Yeah, right? That's why you got muscles, because that's what you've been carried around.
I have to carry all that weight,
Exactly. What makes you, first of all of that baggage, what made you think, I'm going to do an autobiographical album, and I'm just going to I'm going to talk about this shit, that created this person?
Because it's a cool story.
Yeah.
It's trauma, but it's such a cool story because there's not a lot of people that have been through what I've been through. On that show, my best friend Cliff, who I'm here with in East Hampton, he was like, you're a trailblazer. He told me this 2 nights ago, and I was like, what? He's like, you're a trailblazer. Like, the things that you went through on Idol was just like when shaming wasn't a thing, you were shamed. Like, you were the poster child.
Yeah.
I remember the headlines. I was right underneath Britney Spears after she had shaved her head. And then it was me, the stripper, the gay stripper who got booted off American Idol.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just, I think at the time, I never thought I would talk about it. I actually shied away from it in a lot of interviews. I hated when people brought it up because it was really harsh back then when it first happened. But then as time went on, I started taking my power back, and I started, redefining sort of my narrative, what people thought of me. I think I put out, this is my 4th album. I put out like 8 singles, 6 music videos. I've done so much. I've toured, and I opened for John Legend at Barack Obama's inauguration.
Right.
I've done some really cool things, and I just thought wow, that's a lot of adversity to overcome and then still end up working for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And why not just tell the story? So that's where I'm at with it right now. And I feel like, when I talk about it and I'm vulnerable, I feel like it's really therapeutic for me.
And I think, there becomes a time, I think, in every artist's life where I feel like you have that fork in the road, that option. I can either, I'm just going to lay it bare, and because it's cathartic to be able to work through it when it's with your art. If I read the story right, give me more of where the title of your new album came from. Because if I remember correctly, it came from how you were treated by the press and everybody at a time. But first of all, tell everybody what album they're going to be looking for, and then why you chose to name it that.
Yeah, so the album's actually available right now. It's called Don't At Me. And honestly, it's just a giant fuck you to the critics and a giant appreciation for how far this little boy has come. And I, there's the title track, Don't At Me, I wrote when I was in Vegas, and I took a news clip from the Fox News reporters who was like, and the latest scandal was, and that's the intro to that song. And the record sort of skips, and then you hear me come in and start talking about my truths, honestly. And my boyfriend came up with the album title, and then I just wrote the song based on that. I was like, what do you think? Because I was driving back from Vegas to go see him in Los Angeles during our off time. And I was like, what do you think this album should be called? Like, you know what the songs are. And he's like, what about like Don't At Me? And I'm like, it's fucking brilliant.
Right?
I actually love that. For all the keyboard warriors out there, do not at me. If you don't like it, keep it moving. Because for years and years and years, like I would read the comment section. And man, when I tell you that like, I didn't realize how much trauma I had from that experience 15 years later. I'm barely unpacking it, you know, and I'm in therapy again, thank God. And we're talking about some of those things. And like, I would minimize it and not want to talk about it. But like, the truth is, my therapist said this, he's like, you've been through a lot. And I'm not the only one. There's other people on the show, and I won't mention their names out of privacy, but like that are in therapy for the same reasons because of what happened to them at such a young age. So this album for me was just like, not only was I scrutinized for being gay and for taking off my clothes as a stripper who put myself through college, but now I'm actually taking off my clothes again and performing and getting paid for it. So go yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, watch me now. If you thought you had scandal then, let's talk about the tea now.
Let's bring it up, especially because with the tools we learn as we get older, bring it. Like, bring it now because, you know, where I feel like we were taught in a culture, you know, before this, we were taught to have to accept certain things, especially, as I'm sure we can agree, the industry is not built to treat you as a human. The industry is built to either break you apart or for you to find how you own yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was not built to support David Hernandez, and yet you have found a way to make it work for you. How hard was that journey?
I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm still on the journey. I think this is like probably some of the first steps to healing and to really accepting my past and like where it's all led. Because I mean, honestly, look, I've been interviewed, you know, thousands of times, and up until this point, I was always sort of not talking about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And why I went home and how homophobic our culture was back then, and how, you know, nobody wanted a gay former stripper as their American Idol and stuff like that. And like, I just kind of would push it under, you know, because that was, you know, like you said, like that's how I was taught. Like, don't acknowledge it and it'll go away.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens. It's like, I'm going to take the power back and I'm going to acknowledge it right now so that I can control the damn narrative, so that y'all ain't trying to run amok with the different stories and stuff. I'll tell you really what happened. Like, I was a stripper. I put myself through college, and then I auditioned for American Idol. I dropped out of college, and the rest is history. Yeah. But for that time, I don't regret it at all. And now there's a former stripper who made it into, you know, openly former stripper, or, you know, before American Idol, former stripper, who is now in the top whatever, you know, made it past Hollywood Week. And that's amazing. And I hope in some way, shape, or form, I've been a part of that sort of change for people. Because I don't think you should be defined by, so what if you were a stripper? It's not like you were a murderer or it's just stripping, people. Right. So it's been a long road, but I'm happy that I'm ending up like living my own truth. That's the most rewarding part of it.
Exactly. And a moment, we cannot allow a moment to define us. You know, every moment builds us into who we are, and we need to embrace that person and then move forward. I want to talk about your new single, which I've listened to 80 billion times, and I'll sing it and pretend that I'm you, and it's really fun. Yes. But you have said it's called When It Rains, It Pours, and it talks about those moments, we all have them, where our inner voice is not being very cool with us. It's kind of like breaking us down. And you've said When It Rains, It Pours is about feeling alone and building walls that you think are protecting you, but only work to further isolate, which is depression to a T. That is the depression monster. That is exactly what it is. So when you're writing, you wrote this with your producer. When writing this, it's very personal. Like, it's very much putting your inner feelings out for all. What are you thinking? I mean, I don't know how your process is, but sometimes when we start a song, we don't know where it's going to go. What was it like to lay bare all of that?
Well, when I was in the studio with my boy Trent Park, who produced the record, he had this idea, and I don't think it was when it rains it pours, but it was just kind of like overlapping.
Yeah.
And so then we made the beat sort of around that. You know, we just made the beat really together. And then I took it, went back to Vegas, and I had a bottle of wine.
As we should.
There, and I was like, you can't hold anything back on this. Like, you have to really talk about how you feel. And I wrote it, and I think I wrote it in like an hour.
Wow.
And it took me, you know, another hour to lay all the vocals. It was amazing how easily it came, because I was really just speaking my entire narrative, like my truth. It was, you know, my life. So it just flowed out. And in the opening line, it literally is lonely.
Yeah.
Feels like this road I'm on is lonely. Like, and it does, because when all the crowds go away, when the theater's empty, you go home to yourself, and it's just such a weird feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go from zero to like, or you go from everything to like zero in like, you know, an hour.
Yeah.
And so that was basically it. I just wanted to kind of talk about, like, you know, and people are not new to this situation, but I went to rehab for Xanax 5 years ago, and I've been clean from prescription pills ever since. But I talk about that because that was a huge part of like my existence for a long time. Like, I would just take Xanax to just numb myself, especially after American Idol. Because it was really painful, you know. I was called a lot of things, besides my name.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, and then I sent it to my other producer friend, Push Kalan, and he mixed it. And he was like, "Bro, this is some deep shit." And I was like, "Yeah, I could have went deeper. I could have went a little bit deeper in retrospect, but I didn't. You know, I wanted people to be able to relate to it too. But just like even like the second verse, when I talk about parties, I hide my pain from strangers I meet. Distract me. Anxiety makes it so hard to breathe." Yeah. That, I mean, it's so true. My anxiety sometimes is so crippling, and I go down this spiral. And I think there's a lot of people, especially since the pandemic, that can relate to that.
Oh, for real. I think many of us were spiraling. And I love that you say, I was reading things and you talk about the spiral, because we don't have these conversations. Even though we say we have evolved we really haven't. There's still such a shame to even say I go to counseling, to even say I suffer from depression, to even say that I spiral, with which anybody who goes through depression knows exactly what that means, because it means it's more than just, oh, but then someone I loved came over and said it's all good, and then I was out of it. That's not that spiral takes you down, and to you
hear one bad comment,
yeah,
and maybe there's like 200 positive ones, and the only thing you tune into is the one bad comment. And the other day this happened to me. I saw a photo of myself that I absolutely hated. And I started going down this spiral, and I was like, I could smoke weed. I could drink a bottle of wine to numb myself. But I was like, David, it's 2 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
Get it together. Because my old habits would have done that. You know what I mean? Like, I would have been drunk by 3.
Yeah.
Because it's just so crippling to see yourself in a way that I don't know. It's a weird thing for me. And I can say that I'm strong so much, but the truth is I still have, it's very slippery for me.
Yeah.
Like, one photo or one comment can send me on this, like, just this self-deprecating, masochistic, feud myself.
Exactly.
And I really try to be my own best friend these days. And I don't always get it right.
And neither do friends, right? We got to be kinder to ourselves. We have to cut ourselves some slack. But I think this is why I always tell the monsters, the haters out there at their keyboard, which is why participate in that? Why help someone else feel the way that I'm pretty sure you feel for doing this? We tear each other down because we do it out of our own pain. And you talked earlier about we all have a story, and we do definitely have a story. Where is it? It's a funhouse mirror in the industry, to try to keep your feet on level ground and yet do something as brave as this is, to be like, but I'm going to tell you these pieces. How do you make it to where those comments are not going? Because you've laid it bare. People are the vultures are there. How do you take care of yourself?
Oh God, that's such a good question because I feel like I'm still trying to take care of myself. I think I'm learning new tools every day, but it's always, I have to really be really cognizant of the way that I'm talking to myself, because those those words they manifest into actions in the way that I treat myself. Um, what's funny now to me is when I see comments and stuff, I don't know, like people just never cease to amaze me, but also they amaze me at the audacity some people have.
Yeah.
I guess now for me, if you're talking about me, it means I'm doing something right. If you're going to take the time to weigh in, then you're obviously listening to me,
Right.
which is great. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't really experienced the sort of scrutiny that I experienced when I was on Idol. But I was also, maybe I have, but I was also 24 then, so maybe.
Right.
Now I see and hear some of those things, and they just kind of like roll off my back because I'm just like, I got a boyfriend, I got a dog to take care of, I
Right.
have a life to live. Like I don't have time to sit in my feelings based on something that you think of me.
Right.
Maybe anymore, you know. But that's not to say that if I, tomorrow if I catapulted to superstardom, that I wouldn't be hurt by some of those things. I think I probably would if the whole world's saying something negative about you.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to therapy and just kind of getting those tools to learn how to navigate through some of those like negative moments, because the world can be a bitch.
Oh my God. And sadly, it feels sometimes like it's designed to be. We work on this show to be cheerleaders. I think it's more important to raise each other up than tear each other down. And I have to say, the other thing that I am so thankful for my time I spent down there was to see artists like you. You basically, what people need to understand is human beings doing something they love and having to work like to the bone. You know what I mean? When you want to create.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone like you write your own songs. You're out there performing your own music. What's it like when's that moment you're like, it's time to write again? It's time to process this, because that helps battle depression, is to be able to process in whatever way we do the emotions going through us.
I try not to force it. I really haven't written anything since I wrote this album, because it took a lot out of me, and it's such an emotional roller coaster being that vulnerable. But I think I don't know, like for me, when the writing comes, I try to seize the opportunity, because the thoughts flow so quickly, and I'll go into my voice notes and I'll write down lyrics and jot them, whatever. But I just kind of let it happen organically, because I feel like when I try to force myself to write, it just kind of like it's not as authentic for me. But but I've also realized, like during COVID, that like writing is not my only superpower. Being a singer is not my only superpower. I'm a great brother. I'm a great son. I'm a great boyfriend. I'm a great friend. Nice. And I tried during COVID to sort of not like wrap myself up in the singer-songwriter thing, because that's what my identity was. And when that fails business-wise, or seemingly fails, then I felt like a failure. So I work every day to sort of build other parts of my life up, so that the only thing so that the singing, songwriting isn't the only thing that defines me, or the accolades that I have as David Hernandez, American Idol, aren't the only things that define me.
Right.
And so like writing isn't always on the forefront of my brain, music isn't always on the forefront of my brain. I think I love other things too.
I think that's so funny, because people, first of all, there's a group that's like, oh, how dare he? And it it reminds me of a Barbara Streisand interview, because I'm that gay, where she says the guy cannot get through his head, the reporter, that she just doesn't go around singing, because of course she's this amazing singer, and she goes, I've got things to do. I am not going to do dishes and sing. And I'm like, and people were appalled. And I'm like, why? We should all have touchstones. We should all have anchors in our lives that aren't just this one defining characteristic. Just because you think it defines me doesn't mean it defines me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I think that's super important in being like a well-rounded human, not to just equate your self-worth with what you achieve professionally. Yeah. There's other things that you're so beautiful at doing, and it took the pandemic for me to realize some of those things. I actually I'm starting a podcast soon. I'm going to do a docu-series. I've dove back into my acting class, like, because I love acting. I started off in musical theater when I was 8 years old.
Right.
You know, and now I'm finally back here X amount of years later. But it's weird how your truth always comes back around no matter what. You know, what you're meant to do always comes back around. And it's just, when I leaned into that, things just started feeling like less of me swimming against the current, you know, and more like I was just going with what the good Lord or the good universe has intended for me to do.
Whatever. Well, I have to say, though, that I am thrilled that a piece of you, because that's all we get to see. People need to understand that. People are more than just what we see on Instagram or what we see if they're an artist.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm thrilled that you're singing and you're writing, because for those of us who can connect to that music, it's therapeutic for us as well. Let's say we all know mental health is something that, listen, dealing with mental health and becoming healthy has been around forever, but we're just trying to talk about it more. What would you say? So you're an artist, you have your friends. What would you say to someone who maybe this isn't their, they're not this kind of artist? What would you say to them that might be good advice when they're trying to deal with their own spiral?
God, it's so different for everybody. And I'm still trying to figure it out. But I don't want to be disingenuous when I say this, but like, I try to focus on the smallest of things, like my breathing. I'll call somebody who really loves me and knows my heart and say, like, this is how I'm feeling about myself right now. Do you agree? And 9 chances out of 10, they don't.
Right.
You know, the way you're talking to yourself, they would never dare speak to you that way. And you shouldn't speak to yourself that way either. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm trying to be more minimalistic in the things that I put on my plate. Like, I'm trying to sort of make it so I have less stressors in my life, so that I'm not inclined to stay up late or drink too much or go into a depressive spiral or, whatever the case is. So I try to focus on the simplicities, like, and I think having a little animal kind of helps too. The dude just loves the shit out of you. Like, I mean, there's nothing he wants more than you just to be home.
Exactly.
And like he literally he lays on either my lap or Derek's lap. Oh. And it's just like, it's a humbling experience, right? Like, I'm sure just like having a child, it just makes it's something bigger than you, like in your ego and these crazy thoughts you have about yourself. Exactly. So again, I would just say focus on the simplicity and try to minimalize like your stressors. That works. Seems to work for me sometimes.
Right. As best as any of us can make it. I am of the opinion anymore that everybody at some level deals with some mental health issue, whether it's depression, whether it's as deep as some of us go or not. It's something, because of how the world just happens to be. Like you said, the pandemic brought it all to the forefront. And so
the pandemic brought it to your face and you had to deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you were sat with yourself.
Exactly.
And whoever was in your home, if you had someone in your home, but you had to, I mean, literally, like, the mirror's right here. And you had to say, okay, I might not like those parts of myself, but how do I live with it? Because, this is me. Or how do I grow from it? I guess would be
exactly
better.
Which I think I wish more of us would ask that question. I think society would be in a lot better shape if we all said, how do I grow from this? One of the things I want to say about this new single is it's funny because you're in the song, you talk about these real feelings that you're going through, but then it's like you offer some hope, even in the video, which when that gets released, it's absolutely stunning. But there's even visual cues that are like, I want to give some hope here. And there is this whole, you bring in this wonderful female voice who's talking about the things that we need to remember. Can you talk to us about why you chose these moments of hope in the song, talking about your heartache, your loneliness?
Well, so the girl at the end was put in by my producer, Trent Park. I had no idea. He sent the final to me and that was in there. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, I get goosebumps thinking about it now. Cause I'm like, that's so cool that she's such like she's that positive voice in your head. Like, all the shit you think about doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, like, you're just conjuring up all this negative stuff in your head and it's taking up space.
Yeah.
And does that answer the question?
Yes.
I think that's kind of like, that's sort of why, you know, and I say to myself at the end, I'm all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of it all, like, I know I say at some point in the song, I'm like, open your eyes and see there's nothing wrong, but oh, it's all wrong.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, I say, and she's talking to me like my therapist would, or with inner voice, and then I'm just like, I'm all right, right? I think I'm okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think being okay always feels like, yes, I nailed it. Sometimes it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I think I have this for right now.
Yeah.
You know?
In this moment,
sort of,
you're still there.
in this moment, I got it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's a moment by moment basis,
Yeah.
you know, case by case situation. And I think that she's sort of like, the whole song is really just like inner monologue. It's just
right?
like,
well, you're giving words to what is already going through so many of our heads. I will say, I love that in the end of the video, you're all in white. It's that moment of redemption.
Yeah.
I think we live life in the cycle of the phoenix, and we need to remember that although there are days we may crash and burn, we always rise again. And it's that moment. And I have to say, one of the things she says, the female voice in the song says, is once you realize that all the shit you used to care so much about just keeps you a prisoner of your own mind. You know, it's those moments that you're like, say that to me. Yeah. You have to remember those. And maybe it's something that some of us need to say that exact word or listen to that exact song to remind us it looks dark now. It's not dark forever. You know what I mean?
No. And and through the video, there's water, fire, and wind elements that I feel like is literally in my brain all at the same time. That's why we chose those elements. And then at the end of it all, like you said, it's like that moment of like clarity, and that's why white symbolizes like just this purity, that it's like that little boy that started off in musical theater when I was 8 years old, and I just all I had were pure thoughts. Like I just wanted to sing, you know, and like then somehow the business just completely fucks you up.
Oh,
and
for sure.
Then you have to go back to that kid that had dreams, and that kid that, like, you know, he's still in there. You have to talk to that kid, you know, and hold him tightly. I remember one of the things my therapist said was, when you're feeling anxious or depressed, talk to yourself. Say, I see you. I hear you, anxiety. We're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, because those things are just as much a part of you as love and joy and happiness and all that stuff, right? Because they make you who you are, so you can't ignore it. Like, it has to be talked to and dealt with.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a very important thing. That's one of those masterclass lessons that you have to make sure you climb to.
And it's easier said than done, because when I'm going down the spiral, the last thing I want to do is be like, I see you, bitch.
Yeah,
you know, like,
exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
That's what I want to say. I want to be like, I see you, bitch.
Right?
I'm gonna fuck you up.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I really want to say. But you know, you got to treat it with care, just like you treat the other parts of you with care. Yeah.
What a mature. Honestly, until you said that, I don't think I've ever thought about that. But you're right; they're all pieces of who you are. So if you truly say you want to learn to love yourself, you gotta love all the pieces.
You gotta love all of it.
I mean,
if you think about this, when you ignore a little kid crying, what does the kid do? He cries more.
Yep.
You're going to ignore your anxiety or your depression. It's going to be anxious even more and depressed even more. You have to acknowledge those parts of yourself and not be ashamed of those parts of yourself. I think one of the biggest things, because I was shamed so early on in my career, that I've carried that shame with me, and it's just accumulated like a snowball.
Right.
All this stuff, like, I'm so ashamed of. I was ashamed of stripping. I was ashamed of being gay. I was ashamed of Xanax. I was ashamed of alcohol. All those things, and shame doesn't do anything for you. Like, it doesn't help you heal. You know what I mean? So,
So Don't At Me, it's out now. People can go there. I have read things, obviously, and people are excited because there's, like with this song, going to that R&B that you do so well. What can we expect from this whole album?
A journey. I hope that you can relate to at least one song on there. There's a song on there. It's my next single. It's the single after this. A song called "Miss You." We're gonna shoot a music video for it, hopefully really soon. But it talks about loss during the pandemic and the loss of my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
The loss of love. Boyfriends in the past and friendships that fizzled away. Some things were just seasonal and they've been hard to let go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think The album is empowering for me, and I think it should be empowering for other people too. That to not judge yourself and not let others judge you as well, and or at least not let the judgment sink in and
Exactly.
affect your life. But people are always going to judge you, so that's why "Don't At Me" is such a powerful message for me. And then there's a song called "Vices" on there, which we talk about stuff. We talk about drunk dialing your exes.
Oh God, yeah.
Being way too inebriated on whatever it is your poison is.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's an adult record for me. It's just an adult experience. Like, and if you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, everybody in the room that you can't see, they're all doing the whole head nod when you talk about certain things. I feel like it's going to hit a note. I'm just going to say, I feel like we all are ready for this to happen. Now, I noticed on your website that at one point you were giving away like signed copies. You only had 100 though. Are they all gone?
The books?
Yeah, that you were going to sign for people?
Yeah, those are gone. Yeah.
I knew they would not. 100! I'm like, people, you don't even know.
Yeah, they're gone.
100 is that.
It was such a moment in my life, having the nude experience. So I released that book, and it was such beautiful photos. I've never been photographed like that.
Yeah.
I've never saw myself the way those photographs captured me. So I was just like, oh my God, you look good, kid. But it was, and then I was over it. Like once those 100 went, I was done.
Exactly. Your life moved on.
That's enough. Yeah. I was like, that's enough nude photos for now.
Right.
And I know some people in my life were like cringy during that period of my life for 6 months. I think some of my friends actually muted me on Instagram and stuff. And I was like, go ahead.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't care. That to each his own.
Yeah. But
yeah, I think now it's just a little bit less nudity on my socials and more just, I've transitioned into like a different phase.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're a full-fledged human being. That's shocking.
Man, isn't that weird? We have different facets of our psyche.
But what I love about that part, and then that I feel like everything has built its way to this album. Everything, the whole vulnerable learning has come from so many pieces of your life, and it has naturally evolved into Don't At Me. At least that's me. Hasn't listened to the whole album yet. That's the impression I get in speaking to you and seeing this video and this song. So what is the most exciting things you're looking forward to with this album release and you going out and, telling people about it?
I don't know. When I released it, I sort of just shed it. Like that was me shedding it, and however you receive it is how you receive it, but I let it go. And then I recorded When It Rains It Pours, the music video. We shot that, and then I decided just a few weeks ago that I was going to release that as the first single.
Nice.
I'm just letting everything happen organically, and I don't know what the plan is. I don't really have a plan, and I'm just kind of going with what my heart says. And I feel like right now is just such a great time for me to talk about my mental health and to connect with other people to talk about their mental health. And I think if this could prevent somebody from hurting themselves, that would be a success in my eyes, because I think a lot of people that take their own lives, and especially in the pandemic, just didn't see a way out. And a lot of that happens because you feel so isolated and you don't think anyone's sharing those same feelings with you. And the truth is there's millions of people going through the same thing. They're just not talking about it. Exactly. So I figured, why don't I fucking talk about it so that we can all just get this out of the way, so we can start like figuring out how we get through it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I think that's my biggest goal. I don't have a plan. I don't know what's going to happen next. I hope to be in a TV series. I hope to be on Broadway. I hope. Yeah. I just hope that I can be happy above all. You know what I mean? And feel less anxious as much as I can.
Right. Well, we hope the same thing. One of the things we love to celebrate on the show, not only our artists, but our authentic people, authentic humans. Yeah. So I hope you continue this very open conversation about mental health, how important it is, and how it's all of us, people. Nobody needs to be in the shadows. It's all of us, and we all need to find our way, and together we'll find it a little better. And maybe, for a lot of people, it's listening to this album. So before we close, will you please tell people where they're going to go get this album, Don't At You by David Hernandez?
Absolutely. It's on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. you got Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, Google Play. I mean, everywhere. It's everywhere right now. And then the music video for When It Rains, It Pours drops on April 19th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm doing a show at the Laurie Beachman Theater, which I will be performing the single on April 21st with a full band and 2 amazing background singers. And it's my first time doing that kind of thing in New York. So I'm super excited. And I don't know, if I can just change one life, I would be eternally happy, honestly.
Yeah.
That would be, if somebody can talk to me, if I can talk to somebody the way that I wish somebody would have talked to me when I was in the thick of it, then that feels like success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. I have always enjoyed our interactions through the years, and I wish you nothing but amazing. I hope all of those hopes you just listed, just knock them down like on a checklist, because you deserve them all. And so please.
Well, you know that I adore you. I adore you. You're amazing. I always enjoy doing interviews with you because you ask like some really great questions.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of people just ask basic ones. You actually listen and you do your research, and you know, I think you're a great journalist, and I appreciate working with you and all that
What? Well, the only thing I missed this time is that I'm not down there, so we can't, or I'm not in New York, so we can't do it in person, because let's be honest, it's all about the dog. I am just there because the cutest little guy ever. So
Jackson's amazing, and he howls at all the fire trucks and ambulances that go by all the time. So he's amazing.
He's trying to help.
He is the star of the family.
Yeah. As it should be.
I am, but
I mean, I have my little one. I get it. So, David, everybody listening to the show or watching the show this week, please support our local artists. Support people who are willing to put their whole soul out there for us to learn, to connect. So definitely check out David Hernandez. If you haven't heard him, you probably should start. I'm just going to put that out right now. But David, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Love.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, guys. And to everybody in the background, thank you so much, too.
Bye.
Oh, there's the bye. Okay, thanks, David.
Bye.
Bye.